Hello, everyone, and welcome to another Half Pint session. Today, we're joined by a former guest of the show, Dr. Jason Lepojärvi. He has been doing interesting things, as always, but he's got one particularly interesting thing on the horizon that he wanted to talk to me about. So, Jason, welcome back to the show.
Thank you, David, and thanks for inviting me back to pitch my interesting news.
Yes, so let's just catch up. Since you were last on the show, you have now moved, changed jobs, lots of change. Where are you now?
Wow. Well, to bring you up to date, or to bring listeners up to date, a lot has happened over the past year and a half. I was hired as the new C.S. Lewis Associate Professor of Theology and Literature by George Fox University in Oregon. So this is my second year here. In addition to teaching for the Great Books Honors Program, they've asked me to create, to design, to lead a new C.S. Lewis initiative, which I'm very excited about. We have become the academic home of Sehnsucht, the C.S. Lewis Journal. Mm-hmm. We're partnering with the second oldest C.S. Lewis Society in the world and the oldest that continues to meet in person. I'm speaking, of course, about the Portland C.S. Lewis Society, founded in 1972. So celebrated its 50th anniversary last year. And now we are going to launch an annual or biannual conference called the Undiscovered C.S. Lewis Conference. And the inaugural event will take place next September here in Oregon.
It's really exciting. And I think I've just about cleared it with the wife, so I'm also hoping to attend. And this will actually be the first time I've been on the in the Pacific Northwest since I moved away from Seattle.
Well, you might bring your wife with you. We're a child-friendly event.
Yes, but my children are not friendly. No, she's giving this to me as a little present to get away and to nerd out with some fellow nerds for a little while.
Wonderful. We owe her a favor.
Yeah. So tell us about the conference. Who have you got coming? What are the topics that are going to be addressed? Details.
The general theme is quite self-explanatory. So the Undiscovered C.S. Lewis, we're aiming to do two things at the same time, to become kind of the venue for revealing new cutting-edge scholarship on C.S. Lewis, especially the undiscovered side of him. So new discoveries, forgotten ideas or refreshed ideas, just really exciting. So that's one thing we're trying to do. But at the same time, we want to keep this public facing. So it's not just a bunch of academic nerds, but more general nerds that come together. So we have 6 keynote speakers for this inaugural event. We've created space for up to 100 short papers. So I'd really encourage scholars at every stage of their career to submit paper proposals. The call for papers is on our website. Students are very welcome to come. And we'll have 2 or 3 theatrical productions. We will have a pre-screening of a brand new documentary on the friendship of C.S. Lewis and Tolkien, and much more. So very much in the ecumenical spirit of the Inklings, we hope to be a robust scholarly conference, but not just an academic conference, a more holistic conference celebrating camaraderie and the imagination and the intellect of Lewis and his friends.
Mm-hmm. I love the fact that you're looking at new stuff, because you and I have had various conversations about certain of Lewis's books that are very well trodden. There's been an awful lot of scholarship on them, an awful lot of attention, but there are also other ones that have been virtually untouched. I'd even say the space trilogy, the science fiction trilogy, the ransom trilogy, whatever people want to call it, that has recently received a whole bunch of scholarship and popular level books to really bring it to the forefront as a C.S. Lewis book in the last few years. And we actually had a listener reach out to us who was thinking of doing postgraduate work in Lewis, and they said, "What would you suggest?" And what I suggested is go somewhere new, because there is so much more of Lewis to explore.
Yeah, that's very true. His cosmic trilogy, Michael Ward has taught us all not to say space trilogy. So the Ransom trilogy or the cosmic trilogy, I think is going to, it has a brilliant future. Let's put it this way. I recently came back from Belfast, where the C.S. Lewis Institute of Belfast hosted a 2-day C.S. Lewis symposium, and we had a very interesting paper on how Lewis inverts the imperialist colonizing narrative in his Ransom trilogy. So that, I hope we get several paper proposals on that. Michael Ward, whom I just mentioned, he's one of our 6 keynote speakers, and he's going to be revisiting his revolutionary Planet Narnia theory some 20 years after its conception. Literally, his talk is called Planet Narnia Revisited. So what evidence / counter evidence do we have surfaced over the past 20 years since its initial publication? I believe it was published in a magazine, his general idea, before he put it into a book form. We'll also have Dr. Holly Ordway, the Tolkien and Lewis specialist, tackle a stubborn question about Tolkien's relationship to Narnia. Some recent discoveries and arguments and ideas lead to suggest that it's more complicated than previously thought. There's also going to be new letters. There's dozens and dozens of unpublished letters by Lewis. There's new poetry out there. Dr. Simon Horobin from Magdalen College is going to give a fascinating talk on Lewis and Tolkien, their early friendship and their work in the Oxford English School. He's uncovered new poetry by Lewis, and listeners might already know, if not, might be interested to know that Dr. Horobin, or Professor Horobin, has C.S. Lewis's chair at Magdalen College. So that's really, really exciting. There's also I could go on forever, but I'll just mention one more, a new DPhil in theology from Oxford, Jadiel Perez, historically the first ever DPhil in theology from Oxford. I think the Bible says something about prophets in their homeland. I forget how the verse went, but he was supervised by Alistair McGrath and Michael Ward, and he's had a chance to go through Lewis's unpublished vice presidential records at Magdalen College. And he's intriguingly titled his talk, Lewis the Rubbish Administrator. Lewis the Rubbish Administrator. So that'll be very interesting. I seriously hope that many instructors, course instructors, whether in university, college, or classical high school, might they take this opportunity to think about how they tweak their assignments for next semester, for spring 2024 and fall 2024, because this might be a great opportunity to introduce bright students to the world of academia. It's a low stake opportunity to experiment with new ideas in a friendly, critical but friendly venue, and get some peer feedback, pushback, or support for these ideas, and turn these short 20-minute papers into longer articles.
I love it. So where should people go if they want to find out more or register?
George Fox University's website. You could search C.S. Lewis Initiative at George Fox University or the Undiscovered C.S. Lewis Conference. Um, Everything's there. The call for papers, the keynote speakers, and so on.
Wonderful. And if I make it, which is looking exceptionally likely at this point, hopefully I should be buying my ticket in the next day or two. I'll be there and I'll be handing out lots of free Pints with Jack swag. I'm going to try and convince my co-hosts to come with me.
Well, that's a great idea. Come and pitch your wonderful podcast. Early bird registration is open. Tickets are going very fast. We've made it as affordable as possible. We're not even aiming to break even. And as mentioned, you don't need to be a scholar. We're hoping that anyone feels comfortable coming. September in Oregon is absolutely gorgeous. It's based on my 1.5 years here. It's my favorite month in Oregon. It is so pretty and warm still. Newberg, just half an hour, 40 minutes south of Portland, is wine country, basically the Napa Valley of Oregon. So you've got the mountains, you've got the old growth forest, the rolling hills. It's almost like Cotswolds near Oxford. And an hour, 20 minutes away, you've got the Pacific Ocean. So it should be absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah, it was one of my favorite months as well when I lived in Seattle, because you had very nice summers, and that was just the last little bit where there's a slight chill in the air. It's a little bit more like the dewy, cobwebby mornings that Lewis loves so much.
And the rains haven't arrived yet.
Exactly, because then it's wonderful. And speaking of travels and going places, you mentioned earlier that you'd been to Belfast, and I've been following you on Facebook and seeing some of the things that you've been doing. With the little bit of time that we've got, would you mind just telling us some of the things that you got up to when you were in Belfast?
Well, this was my first visit to Lewis's homeland, despite having lived in England for years. So
Right.
It was better late than never, and I wish to go back as often as possible. I now understand better why Lewis declined these kind American invitations to come and travel in North America. He had a heart for Ireland, and every spare moment he had, he would go back to Northern Ireland. Of course, he was born in Ireland before the partition, so he has very much an Irish identity. It was absolutely gorgeous, and I was able to do a lot of Lewis touristy stuff as well, in addition to the more scholarly things. Belfast has the C.S. Lewis Square with the famous sculpture by artist Ross Wilson called The Seeker. I was able to meet him as well. I traveled around eastern Belfast, where Joy and Lewis had their belated honeymoon in 1958, I believe, and Lewis very often would go for pints at this place called the Old Inn, which is one of the oldest hotels in Europe. And they had very cleverly exploited that Lewis connection in their marketing and promotion, to their credit. I mean, who wouldn't? So I had a great experience. I went up to the North Shore as well, Coleraine, where Ulster University is, to see a new play on Lewis. One evening in my hotel room, I opened up my laptop and I watched the new movie based on the eponymous book by Professor Carolyn Weber, I think her name is, called Surprised by Oxford. And I think you had a watch party as well. I was positively surprised and even curiously touched by it. And in fact, coming home to Oregon, we started watching it again with my wife, since she also lived in England, in Oxford, for a few years. I really loved it. It's a Christian movie. Christian movies never convert anyone, unfortunately. But I pray and hope that this one might at least strengthen faith. It certainly was a boon to my own faith and sensibilities and imagination. And it might draw draw people to think more deeply about their loves and their longings. Incidentally, she has another spiritual memoir that is called, I believe, Sex and the City of God, a memoir of love and longings.
Yeah, it's a wonderful title. I haven't read that one yet. But yes, when we had our watch party, everybody enjoyed it. I would say the consensus was that the spiritual journey kind of gets lost as we near the end of the movie. But as I said at the beginning, because I got to see an early release, if for no other reason, you should watch this movie just to get some of the most gorgeous cinematography of Oxford, and
Absolutely,
just
as the
makes me want to go back.
Absolutely, yeah. We were 5 minutes into it, and my wife let out a deep sob. It really touched her somewhere. Just a beautiful cinematography. Has the most cinematography of Oxford in any movie. I think if there ever is going to be a movie that will top it, it might be A Severe Mercy. I'm surprised we still don't have a severe Mercy in the cinemas. It's gonna be a bestseller. I think you're right about the spiritual journey side of it, because there's two love affairs there, right? And the other one is a human love affair. Admittedly, their budding, slow burn love affair is very, very cute in my view, at least. I did like it. There's some caricatures of eccentric and Oxford dons and professors that are completely unnecessary. And if you've ever been to Oxford or lived or worked in Oxford, you'll wince or cringe at those. But I forgive them all.
Yes, it was lovely to see so many faces from my childhood. The number of well-established British actors they have was incredible.
Phenomenal.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was surprising, and they did a great job, I thought. I think I was most impressed by whoever played the lead male actor. Just so natural and such a likable character. You He made it seem like he himself in real life is such a likable character. I can imagine ladies falling in love with him.
It would have
I
been very
almost did.
well, yeah, those brooding eyes. Yeah, his character would have been very easy to make obnoxious, and they managed to avoid that.
Absolutely. It's a balancing act. He did it very well. Just he was on the verge, but still very likable and funny.
Wonderful. Well, Jason, it's been lovely to catch up with you. It's been too long. Just
Yes.
to recap, if people have watched all the way through and they now have forgotten what the website was, where do they need to go to register, and what date is it?
Google Undiscovered C.S. Lewis Conference or the C.S. Lewis Initiative at George Fox University. It's in Oregon, a 4-day conference from September 5th to September 8th next year, 2024. So from a Thursday to a Friday, we've got early bird registration open. It's as affordable as possible with discounts for students. Check it out. You're all very welcome.
Wonderful stuff. Well, viewers, listeners, please join us again next time, and we'll continue going further up and further in. Cheers.
Cheers.